Hey, what's up guys? It's a Fluffy Angel here. Welcome back to the channel, and for today's video, I wanted to show off my manga collection. What you see here is a culmination of about 4 years of collecting. A lot has come into the collection, and I've actually gotten rid of a lot as well. But needless to say, I'm very proud to have what I have here on my shelves. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Just a little information about how I actually organize my manga, because a lot of people do it in various different ways. I actually organize by size and by publisher, meaning the vertical volumes are usually a lot smaller. Same with the 7Cs, so I organize them by height. The Viz and Kodansha releases are a little larger, and then all the way down to where the Viz Bigs and the Viz Sigs and some of the oversized hardcovers are as well. But without further ado, let's get right into this first shelf here. Moving this Ken Kaneki pop figure aside, we can actually see the first series on my shelf, and that is Flowers of Evil by Shuzo Oshimi. She is a fantastic mangaka. I really want to start reading some of her newer works, especially Blood on the Tracks. I've heard nothing but good things about that, and I also wanted to kind of check out her other series as well. But this is volumes 1 through 11, and these are the single prints by Vertical. These are now out of print, and from what I've seen, kind of hard to come by. But if you haven't read this series already, you can also pick up the 3-in-1s they released. I actually debated picking those up as well on top of my singles here, but I really adore how the physicals look on the shelf. So I want to keep these for a while. But like I said, if you haven't read it already, I would definitely recommend doing so. And I would definitely try and pick up the 3-in-1s as fast as you can, because I also heard those are going out of print. Vertical is notorious for letting their series kind of go out of print, but they do reprint them in other formats every once in a while. But needless to say, Flowers of Evil is a series you must check out. Next up is Girlfriends Collection 1 and 2. These are 2-in-1s by 7Cs. It's a typical romance manga. I was one of my first mangas I actually picked up when I first started collecting, because I wanted to get kind of in the shoujo romance genre of manga. And from what I read, I actually really liked it. So I recommend that as well if you're into romance and that sort of genre. Next up is Orange, the Complete Collection, Volumes 1 and 2. These are also 2-in-1s. I believe they actually might be 3-in-1s. I'm not too sure on the single releases, but these are also done by 7Cs. I really enjoyed this series. I wanted to pick it up after I finished watching the anime, and I really liked what I read. I do know that there's an epilogue series that came out. It's only 1 volume, and I really want to pick that up sooner rather than later to kind of find out what happens after the story. But yeah, Orange is another one of those series that I highly recommend you pick up. It has a lot of cool elements. There are some elements I actually don't like, how they kind of explain how the time, well, not really time travel, but how the somewhat of the premise of the story kind of works. But needless to say, it's a great story. I highly recommend it. Next up is NTR Netsuzo Trap. This is your typical ecchi romance story. I dropped it after volume 2. It was not my cup of tea per se, but there are people that do enjoy it, and from what I read, it's a very enjoyable series, from what I've seen online. I mean, I do believe some of the volumes are actually going out of print now. I was looking online to kind of get rid of these, and I saw volume 3 was at a really high price on Amazon. But again, that is Amazon. I haven't checked anywhere else. But if you're interested in this series and you do like it after reading the first couple of chapters, I highly recommend you go immediately and pick it up as soon as you can, actually, or else you might be stuck in the boat of trying to collect an out-of-print series, which is really sucky. Next up is the Death Note All-in-One Edition. I picked this up off of a good deal on Amazon, and knowing Amazon, it actually came a little damaged. If I can show you back here, this corner is severely creased, but I tried getting in contact with them, but they actually never got back to me, which I'm really disappointed about. But it's Death Note. It's a great series. If you don't know what it's about, it's basically this teenager who acquires this notepad, and inside this notebook, if name is written down and that person dies. And the characters you hear is Ryu. He's basically the kind of being watching over him to kind of see this chaos unfold. And yeah, it's just a really great story. I highly recommend anyone that hasn't ready to go out and check it out right now, especially because they not only have this all-in-one edition, which I thought was a very unique premise from Viz, because it's 13 volumes in this tiny little book. But I believe there's also a box set that's extremely affordable. Don't watch the live action series on Netflix, though. It's trash. The anime is also on Netflix as well. You should watch that. But yeah, nothing much more to say other than it's a great series. I highly recommend it. It's one of those great beginner series as well, to kind of see what manga is all about. Next up is the godly series Berserk. I have volumes 1 all the way through 21, as well as the guidebook. This was one of the first series I actually picked up that explains the original spines here from Dark Horse. But when I collected this is when it started going out of print again. So because of that, I kind of got kind of sidetracked with other series I was trying to collect at the time. But when they announced the new reprinting, I went ahead and got all the way through volume 21, but I actually never picked it up after that. It's a series that I've wanted to collect for a very long time, and I do still plan on doing so. It's just a matter of when, but I think that in the coming months I definitely will try and collect the rest of these. There are currently 40 out in English, and I do believe that the manga is going out of hiatus again if another chapter has already been released recently. I'm not too sure. Kentaro Miura takes his sweet time with it, and I do not blame him. The artwork is fantastic. The dark fantasy setting is also amazing. It's gritty. It's very violent. There's no holds bar with this manga. So if you're into like Game of Thrones and that sort of things, I would definitely recommend Berserk. It's definitely a more mature series as well. Next up is Gantz. These are the omnibus versions. I actually, when I first started collecting, had some of the singles. I had roughly, I want to say 70% of the singles, and I kind of wish I stuck with it. But at the time, I was not really fizzling out of my manga phase, but I was kind of taking a little break, and because of that, I decided to get rid of them. Really bad decision now looking back on it, as now these singles are horribly overpriced as they are out of stock and out of print. They've been for a while now. But needless to say, I did want to collect Gantz in some sort of format, so I actually started collecting these and sold my other ones when the first Omnibus was released. But knowing Dark Horse, their release pattern is very slow. So I definitely want to try and continue to pick up as they come out. I believe Volume 5 actually just came out, so I should step up on that. But they are very slow to release, like I said, so it's not too much of a rush for me. Next up is Ghost Talker's Daydream. This is a series that I actually picked up on a whim at a yard sale. I think the first 3 volumes were 50 cents a piece, and I actually never got around to reading this. This is one of my series that I really want to try and get into. From what I've heard, it's a very interesting premise, and I think there's only 8 volumes out, so it's not too hard to find. It's not too much of an in-demand series, but yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of sitting down and binging these 4 volumes and see what I think of it. Next up is Old Boy number 5. There's a lot of random series here in my collection. I actually picked them up as part of a bundle at my local comic book shop. I really enjoy the movie that was done, not the American version, but the Korean version. I think is a fantastic movie. You should definitely go check it out. And from what I've seen as well, Old Boy isn't that hard of a series to collect in terms of Dark Horse manga, as a lot of their series are out of print. And because of that, it kind of gets more expensive. But yeah, Old Boy is one of those series that I want to collect sooner rather than later. Next up is I Am a Hero Omnibus number 1. This I actually picked up really recently. It was actually part of my last month's haul. I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, as I wanted to sink my teeth into Blue Exorcist. But I did see online that they are planning on printing more of these, which is really nice to hear, as Like I said, Dark Horse is one of those companies that's notorious for their out-of-print series. So I'm looking forward to collecting the rest and after I give this a read. And if I like it, I will continue to pick up the rest. Next up, I kind of kept my single volume stories kind of together. First up is 5 centimeters per second. It's the manga based off the movie by Makoto Shinkai. It's a very sad, kind of true to life romance manga. If you are looking to kind of see a happy ending to this, don't read this. It will kind of crush your expectations on that end. But needless to say, the movie is fantastic. It's one of Makoto Shinkai's best works, in my opinion. And the manga is not too bad itself. So definitely pick it up if you can. Next up is Dissolving Classroom by Junji Ito. This is one, I think this is actually the only work I have of Junji Ito, but I've read several of his works online, and I do want to pick up some of his other works, such as Tomei, and a few other of the really nice hardcovers issued by Viz. So I definitely will pick those up sooner rather than later. I was thinking of kind of picking them around Halloween, so I can kind of have a good time on Halloween night and read some scary stories. Next up is A God's Lie. This is a severely underrated manga, in my opinion. I believe it's only 4 or 5 chapters, but a lot happens in this manga that I don't think a lot of shorter stories can execute. There is a really surprise twist ending. It's a very moving story. This is one of those series that I highly recommend for people trying to get into manga because it's collected in a single volume. The story is just fantastic, and it's one of those series that I don't see a lot of people talking about. So if you haven't done so already, I would definitely recommend The God's Lie. And I would definitely recommend picking it up as part of your next month's haul. Next up is A Girl on the Shore by Inio Asano. I wanted to pick up some of his other series for a very long time, especially the Poon Poon series. A Girl on the Shore is a manga series that took me by surprise. It's a very graphic manga. It's very mature. It's not like mature where it's like Berserk, where it's violent and, you know, there's monsters and death and sex and whatever. A Girl on the Shore deals with very heavy topics. And not only that, but the artwork itself doesn't shy away from showing things that make the reader very uncomfortable. This is one of the few times I almost actually put down a manga and I didn't want to continue reading it, but I'm glad I did because after finishing it and kind of thinking about it, it's very provocative, but it's one of the better series I've read. But if you don't like themes of, you know, like sex, depression, and that sort of stuff, I definitely wouldn't recommend the series. But it's an interesting coming-of-age story from Inio Asano. And yeah, it's one of those I kind of find hard to recommend. But from those that did read it, they kind of enjoyed it in that sense where after doing some reflection, the story itself kind of outweighs the cons of the manga itself. Next up is Blood Lad, volumes 5 and 6. Like I said, this is one of the series that I picked up in a bundle. I have no idea what Blood Lad's about, nor do I have any intentions of selling it. I've been keeping it. I've been trying to sell it for years, and I've just had no luck. But yeah. Blood Lad, like I said, nothing much to say about it as I don't know what it's really about, but I do see some of the volumes go for decent prices, so I might pick up the first one and see if I like it. Next up is Batum Volume 6. This is actually a series I've been wanting to collect for a while. I bought this on Amazon for like $4. Don't do what I do and just buy bundles and volumes of manga that seem cheap at the time, because then you'll just have patches in your collection like I do. But Batum's actually one of those series that I've been trying to collect, but it's actually going out of print, and some of the volumes online are very hard to find and very expensive. So it might be a series that I might drop or try to pick up the first 3 volumes and see if I like it, and if I do, I'll keep it. If not, I'll just sell it. Next up is Horimia. Again, part of the same bundle I got Batum, Blood Lad, and Old Boy with. Not much to say. Kind of interested to see what the series is. Next up we have the next shelf, and this shelf I have a couple of different series. Now it's starting with the Kodansha releases. Here we have a Vegeta pod that I built. Very fun, but can break very easily. We have Is It Wrong to Try and Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, Volume 2. Again, it's one of those random volumes that I picked up in a bundle. Don't do that. It's one of my top tips when collecting manga. Don't just buy stuff because you see a good deal, or else you'll end up with like a big patch in your collection like I do. Next up is Smoking Parade. This is a series that I was really excited to start picking up, as it's by the same mangaka that wrote and well, it's two people. It's the same basically duo that wrote and drew Man Wonderland, which is one of my favorite series. Both the anime and the manga are great watches and reads. I highly recommend. That is another series as an entry point when collecting manga or when watching anime. It's a very action-centered anime and manga, but the story has very unique ideas to it, which I really enjoyed reading. It's something I've never read before. And just like I said, the story is very unique in that sense. So I was really excited to pick up Smoking Parade, but from what I read so far, it kind of disappointed me. It doesn't have the same charm or flair that Man Wonderland did. I actually don't know if this is still serializing, but I know in the Yen Press releases in English, they have up through Volume 7. So I debated going back and kind of reading some chapters online to see if I want to continue reading it if the story picks up. But as of right now, Smoking Parade is a decent story, but it's, in my opinion, not one worth collecting still. Next up is A Silent Voice. This series is amazing. The anime was beautifully done as well. It's one of my favorite animated movies, and that says a lot considering there's a lot of great movies out there. But A Silent Voice is one of those really tough series to read as well. It's not as uncomfortable as A Girl on the Shore in terms of its visual components, but the story itself is really heartbreaking, and it's really kind of hard to see how these characters interact with one another. But I really like the evolution of the main character and kind of how he evolves as a human being and kind of learns like what he did as a child was wrong. And yeah, it's a great story. If you haven't read it already, I highly recommend it. It's only 7 volumes. It's a really short series. I actually believe I read this all in one night. So it's one of those, keep you on the edge of your seat, always wanting to read more and more series. Highly recommend it. Next up is Attack on Titan. I know this looks really weird. So the first volume of Attack on Titan is actually one of the first manga I purchased. It was this and Death Note I picked up. And I had recently finished watching the anime. And it was right when it came out. So I wanted to kind of collect what was taking place after the anime, and that's why it jumps all the way from 1 to 9. And then I read all the way through. I have read Volume 20. I actually sold it a while ago because I wanted to buy the special edition that came with the OVA episode of No Regrets. So I need to pick that up eventually, and then I got Volume 27 as a gift, but there's a lot that I still need to pick up in terms of try to get this as a one continuous series. But this series is absolutely fantastic. A lot of people dropped it after the main arc of the anime had finished airing. As the story kind of shifts, where it focuses more on the political aspect of the world and kind of the human conflict between the different walls and the different branches of their military. But I am telling you, this series has created one of the best protagonists I have ever seen. Hajime Isayama does a fantastic job monthly with this series, and I believe it's actually concluding at the end of this year or early next year. It's in its final arc. And man, I still keep up with this monthly, and this series is absolutely fantastic. This is one of those great beginner reads, as you kind of see how not only a mangaka can change and evolve his art style over time, but also how a story can change as well. As Hajime Isayama has changed the story numerous times, so it always keeps the reader on their toes. A lot happens that you don't expect. And when it's coming from the anime perspective as well, if you're trying to watch a brand new series, this is fantastic as well, as the animation quality is jaw-dropping, from the score to the way the characters look to the action sequences. This is probably one of my top 3 series that I would recommend to anyone trying to get into anime and manga. Next up is Fire Force Volumes 1 through 3. I read the first couple of volumes and it didn't really resonate with me. I tried giving it a second shot when the anime came out, but again, that was a pretty mediocre anime in my opinion. But I know that it's far off in the series now, and I heard it gets a little better, so I might give it a second shot one day. But for right now, I only have the first 3 volumes of Fire Force, and I don't intend on picking up any more at the moment. Next up is Livingstone Volumes 1, 2, 3. There are 4 volumes in this all together. This is drawn by the same guy that drew Smoke and Parade and Dead Man Wonderland. I've been waiting to get the 4th series so I can actually binge read this, because it's, like I said, it's a shorter series. I heard it has a very interesting premise, but other than that, I can't really give too much of my own take on it. Next up is Noragami Volumes 1, 2, 3. I've had this in my collection for a very long time. I got it as a gift from someone, but I actually have yet to sit down and take the time to read it, which is something I actually plan to do in the coming weeks. But yeah, I don't have much to say about Noragami Stray God. But I do look forward to reading it, and I do like the way that the volumes actually look. I think it looks very gorgeous sitting on my shelf. Next up is Black Clover, Volumes 1 through 4. This is one of the series that I wanted to pick up shortly after the anime started airing, as I saw it would have the same problem as Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. It has a lot of filler, so I wanted to kind of get to the story that people were talking about. And from what I read, I really enjoyed it. It's another one of those fun shonen reads, but at the time, it just wasn't a priority for me. I heard it gets really good in the later volumes, so it might be a series I want to revisit one day and kind of pick up more of them. Next up is Blue Exorcist Volumes 1 through 7. This is a series I actually recently started reading, and I do plan on continuing to do so. If you haven't watched my first impressions on it already, I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed what Kazue Kato did with kind of setting up his world and the story, as well as the characters themselves. I think they really stand out for me, and it's what really makes it a fun shonen read. Next up is Claymore, Volumes 1 through 27. This was also one of the first series I started to collect when I got into collecting manga. I bought this shortly after buying Berserk. I heard that it has the same premise, except, it has a few different elements to it. But needless to say, because of that, and because of the hype surrounding Berserk, and my personal love for it, I went and bought the whole series. And my general consensus is it's a pretty okay series. It doesn't do a lot to improve of what I think Berserk is and what it could have been in terms of Claymore. But needless to say, it was still a fun series to read. I just was really disappointed by the ending. But yeah, I just have a soft spot to it because it's one of the first series I started collecting. And what I'm saying too, it's not that it's a bad series. It's just, in my opinion, it's not as good as Berserk, and a lot of people make comparisons to it. But I think it's still a great read for someone still trying to get into manga and trying to get into the grittier aspect of, what the medium has to offer. So I would definitely recommend, if you are interested in picking up a darker fantasy series, if Berserk isn't more your, taste in manga. Next up is Dead Man Wonderland Volumes 1, 2, 3. I actually have the rest of the series down here, but I do take a break on my next shelf, and that I will show you here in a minute. But yeah, Dead Man Wonderland, it's one of my favorite series. Like I said, I think the story is very unique. The characters are amazing. There's a lot of twists and turns that the mangaka presents you with in his story. I highly recommend this as a series that for anyone looking to get into edgier, kind of more violence-oriented manga, you know, really gory, really, you know, ecchi in terms of like the characters, how they look, how the story unfolds. This is one that I definitely recommend, as it doesn't do it too much, and it doesn't do it in an untasteful way. Everything is, you know, set to a right amount, in my opinion, and it's one of those series that I actually have read 3 times, which I don't do a lot with the series on my shelf. Next up is my Naruto shelf. The reason being, as are so many volumes in the series that I wanted to just kind of have it all in one place. I have a couple Nendroids here and a pop figure. I actually do really like how the Nendroids look on the shelf and the appearance of them. And I definitely recommend for anyone looking to get into figurines in that you know, respect. They're small and they just look great. They're not as tall as normal figurines or not as big, but you know, I do like the quality of them and how they just look in their appearance. But you know, this is a manga collection, so let's show off the manga. Let me move these out of the way. So I have the first part of Naruto, volumes 1 through 27. This was when I really was buying manga every week. I saw a fantastic deal for these on eBay, and I just picked up the first part for a really good price, in my opinion. So I'm glad I did, but I do not like how the spines kind of change, but you know, I can't complain because now Viz has not only a new Viz logo at the bottom, but they have a new Shonen Jump logo as well. So it's definitely going to be heartbreaking when I do get the 3rd box set. But I do have through, I believe, the Pain arc as well. So that includes volumes 28 all the way through 48. And I do have volume 52, the guide, the official fan book, the epilogue volume, the 7th Hokage and the Scarlet Spring, and then a few of the light novels as well. I started collecting Boruto, and I don't know why, but I think I was just like really milked out at that point because I speed read these, and then I went and continued reading the volumes online through Viz's website. So I kind of just want to take a break from the Naruto universe, but that doesn't, you know, change my opinion of the series, where I think it's a really fun read. It doesn't revolutionize the whole shonen format, but it is one of the big 3, you know. It's one of those classic manga that anyone going into the medium has to read, or anyone going to anime, you know, has to watch it. But I do like the manga over the anime, as there's less filler and it's more concise, but the animation in the anime is some of the later episodes is just great. I do know that there's some of those derpy episodes as well, such as the pain fight that was absolutely atrocious, but you know, enough of that. It's a great, fun series to read for anyone, I think, looking to kind of get into the shonen genre. It has a lot of your typical tropes, you know, like an overpowered protagonist, a far-out goal, stuff that I said a lot in my Blue Exorcist first impressions. You know, it's within the same formula, but it's a fun read. It's not great, but I think it's still a good time and worth reading if you're trying to get into that style of manga, or if you're into just that type of storytelling as well. Here are the rest of the volumes of Man Wonderland. There are 13 altogether. Like I said, it's one of those shortest series, and one that I think is definitely worth picking up. Next up is Death Note Volume 1. I bought this the same day as I bought Attack on Titan, but because I read the anime at the time, I was just watched the anime. At the time, I was just trying to collect as many series as I could so that I can kind of expose myself to a lot of different genres and a lot of different stories within the medium. So I actually just never got around to collecting the rest of the singles, and at some point I did collect the all-in-one edition, but it's collecting the singles is one of my goals in my collection, just because I like how the spines look on the shelf from what I've seen online. So I might be getting the box set, but that's when I kind of reach a point where I feel as if I kind of reached a wall and I just want to collect some backlog versus getting some of the newest series. Next up is Demon Slayer. It's one of my favorite shonen manga at the moment. I have volumes 1 through 14. I believe 15 just came out in the beginning of this month. So I need to pick that up at some point. But it's a great, series involving demons and demon slayers, as the name states. I haven't stopped reading it just due to the fun I'm having while doing so. The mangaka does a fantastic job at, introducing interesting battle elements, always keeping the characters and the story on their toes as well as the reader. And I'm actually almost done reading it as I continue to read past the physical releases as I'm reading them online on the Viz website. But it's a shorter series too. It's only 200 chapters, and while that is a lot, I think it's one of those series that you sit down and you read a volume so quick and you don't even realize how long it took you to read it. It's just that fun. So for anyone looking to get into the more modern series of manga and kind of get into the current generation of where the industry lies, I think Demon Slayer is one of those series that you'd want to pick up. Next up is Dr. Stone, volumes 1 through 11. This is one of the series I have yet to continue reading. I picked up volumes 7 through 11 in my last manga haul. And yeah, I had fun reading what I did. It has a very unique and interesting premise, and I really like the art style of it, which is a plus, as always, when reading manga. It's a very visual medium. But needless to say, I'm excited to continue to read it. I want to hop back into the anime, as I know Stone Wars is starting at the end of this year. So I definitely want to get caught up before that airs so I can kind of see what I read animated on the screen. Next up is Food Wars, volumes 5 all the way to volume 20. This is a series that I have been trying to collect for a very long time. This was one of the few anime that I absolutely fell in love with in terms of kind of the world, what it's based on. I really like the cooking aspect of it, and this kind of inspired me to go out and try new dishes and try new recipes. Obviously, it has that fan service, ecchi component to it, but don't let that turn you off. I still think it's a great series. It's a great battle shonen. And especially when it comes to cooking, they add a lot of hype to the cooking battles in the show. This is about half of the series. I still need to collect volumes 1 through 4. Again, it's a bad habit of mine to kind of collect, from what I've watched on. But it's definitely, like I said, a goal of mine to finish the series. I do believe there are close to 40 volumes. So I will get there eventually, but I'm kind of waiting for a Right Stuff sale and kind of picking up the rest at that point. Next up is Gabakawa. I actually never read this, but I heard it's a really decent shoujo manga. It's a single volume, so I have no excuse. I probably will read this at some point when I'm in the shoujo mood. But yeah, I don't have much to say about it. I do know it's a single volume, so it's nice and short. So I'll give it a read one day when I'm just bored and looking for something to read. Next up is Jiu Jitsu Kaizen. I have still yet to read this. I picked it up during my last month's haul, particularly during the Right Stuff sale. But I just need to find time and, take the time and read the series. But I'm very interested from what I've seen so far, and I'm very interested to see how the story presents itself in terms of this supernatural world. If it's like Bleach or some other sort of supernatural series like that. So definitely looking forward to reading Jiu Jitsu Kaizen. The next series on this shelf is My Hero Academia. Don't mind this. This is just a promo card that I got for buying a Japanese volume, but I thought it was cool, so I wanted to put it here with the rest of my manga. But yeah, despite my terrible collecting habits, I do really love My Hero Academia. It's one of my favorite series to not only collect, in terms of these volumes, but also to read on a weekly basis and as well watch the anime. In case you haven't heard, My Hero Academia is basically a superhero manga. Follows this kid Deku, and he acquires this, powerful superpower from the world's #1 superhero at the moment, as he was born without what they're called quirks, their version of superpowers. And I have volumes 1, 2, 4, 5, 9 through 11, and 14 all the way to 21. There are currently 24 out in English at the moment, with 25 coming out soon, I believe. And yeah, like I said, despite my terrible collecting habits, I do really enjoy this series. One of my main goals before the end of the summer is to finish collecting this, kind of filling in the gaps. And I think I will be able to do it and kind of get caught up in terms of the English releases by Viz. So I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, like I said, I can't say nothing but good things about My Hero Academia, and I highly recommend it to anyone looking to kind of, read a newer series from, the shonen genre, following the big three, like Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. So definitely give that a read. Next up is My Hero Academia Vigilantes. This is a spin-off series that I have been waiting to start for a very long time, but I actually just never got around to it, as I have kind of a big backlog to read. But this is basically a prequel series set in the same universe as My Hero Academia, so I'm looking forward to kind of looking into that and seeing if it's something that I want to continue picking up. Next up is a series I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and that is Nana. I have the first 13 volumes, but I actually was able to go ahead and read it online, so I actually ended up finishing, and it's a really great and underrated series in my opinion. It's also very dark. It deals with a lot of heavy subjects. So if you're looking for more of a mature read on the shoujo side of things, it's similar to Banana Fish, where it definitely has that mature aspect to it. And if you're looking for more of a serious story and not one that's a generic shoujo like super lovey type of thing, Nana would definitely be a series for you. From what I've read online, the people that have read it have really enjoyed it and have thought highly of it. So like I said, Nana is one of my another one of my recommendations. I have a lot here on the shelf, but yeah, Nana is definitely one of those that I would definitely check out if you are interested in a more grittier romance story. Next up is One Punch Man Volumes 1 through 18. This is Saitama Nendroid. Let me move him out of the way here so we can focus on the manga. My Hero Academia. One Punch Man is basically about this guy, Saitama, and he can defeat anything in one punch, whether it be, huge intergalactic species or the guy down the street that's robbing a bank. And it follows his adventures, but one, I think, does a fantastic job when keeping the story fresh, as there's a lot of development on the side characters and even the villains themselves. So, while you're waiting for Saitama to fight and show up and kind of just end the battle, you have these side characters that are struggling. You have these villains that are going through their own personal arcs and overcoming personal tragedies that may have led them to that point, so on and so forth. It's a really great series, in my opinion. It's always fun to read, especially because the fights never get too stale, in my opinion. With basically the general premise being this guy that can defeat anything in one punch. They don't overuse it, but obviously that sometimes the fight is going to end in that way. There's currently 20 volumes out in English. I have the first 18, so I'm very close to catching up with these releases. This is another one of the series that I want to be able to catch up on before the summer ends, so that way come the fall and the winter I can kind of pick them up as they come out. Next up is a series that the only reason why I have it is just due to a soft spot I have to the duo that made the wonderful series of Death Note, and that is Platinum End. I think that this series really falls flat in the story department. It's not interesting at all. This has been one of the few manga that I've actually had to put down because how bored I am. but I still kept collecting them up until a certain point where I said, well, if I'm going to continue collecting it, I have to read it. So I have the first 8. I stopped around volume 3 or 4, I believe. And I believe there's currently 11 or 12 out in English by these releases by Viz. Again, really disappointed. I really thought that, they would be another kind of, not like Death Note, but I definitely expected it to live up to the hype. But Platinum End, if you're interested in that duo, I would definitely check them out. And yeah, like I said, Platinum End, it's a really decent manga. It's the most average, I think, that I can rate it, at a solid, if I were to give it a rating, it's a solid 5. If there were to be a 5, it'd be Platinum End. But yeah, I don't see myself collecting any more of this until I sit down and finish reading what I have and kind of seeing if it's something that picks up and kind of gets my heart back in the series. So next up is Promised Neverland. I have the first 4 volumes. I bought these following the first season of the anime, as I wanted to go ahead and read the manga from the beginning, just because I really like the premise and the story and the kind of the horror and the tension surrounding the story. It's one of my intentions to kind of collect as much as I can. I believe that there are 16 or 17 now in English, I think. I'm not too sure, but I do know that this series is ending really soon. I think it's in its final arc, or it's very close to ending. So when that actually does happen, I want to kind of start from the beginning again before the second season airs and see if I want to continue to collect it, which I believe I will. But I did hear that the the series after a certain point really does fall flat, and it doesn't continue its horror roots that it kind of created its series on. Next up is Twin Star Exorcist. I think this is a really underrated shonen in my opinion. The anime did it so dirty. This is one of those occasions where the series lost a lot of hype due to the anime. And unfortunately it does happen, and I believe this was one of it. The anime had a anime only ending, so it doesn't follow the manga at all, and it's still one of those series that I think is still a fun read, even though I only have the first 3. I believe when I took a break from reading it, I was around volume 10 online. And they're still, I believe the series is still going on too. So if you're interested in a kind of a newer, not newer, but it's something different, I would definitely check out Twin Star Exorcist, as I don't see a lot of people talking about it, and I would definitely be interested in kind of making a video on it for you guys to kind of give my own opinion as to why I think it's a really underrated manga. On this final shelf, the first series we have is Prison School. I have the first 7 of the 2-in-1 volumes released by Yen Press. This is a really ecchi series. It follows a group of boys after they try to sneak into the girls' bathroom at an all-girls school. They get in big trouble with the student body, and the vice president and president kind of punishes them by creating a prison at the school and forcing them to do hard labor and stuff like that. This is a really ecchi series, but it's still a series that I highly recommend due to the fact that it's just hilarious. If you like that type of humor, I would definitely read the first couple of chapters and see if it will kind of resonate with you in that sense. But similar to Grand Blue Dreaming, this is one of the few series that I can read and laugh out loud every time I do so. So I'm looking forward to collecting the rest and really binge reading it one day. I've read the first 3 volumes, and I want to continue to read more. So Prison School, I highly recommend it, and I would definitely give it a shot if you do like that type of humor and don't mind the etchiness. Next up is Gleipnir. This was another part of my haul from last month. I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and read it yet, but I definitely will do a first impressions on this sooner rather than later. Again, it's part of my huge backlog to read, so yeah, Gleipnir, nothing much to say. I do like how the art looks so far, but I'm interested to kind of sit down and read and kind of look into the story aspect and whatnot. Stuff that in there. Next up is Inuyashiki Volume 1. This is done by the same mangaka that wrote and illustrated Gantz. I actually read all of this already, but I wanted to pick up the series. I actually almost did during this year's birthday sale, but I wanted to prioritize other series that I haven't read yet. I also really enjoyed the anime. It was released on Amazon here in the US, so I don't think a lot of people watched it. It had a very interesting blend of CG and regular animation, but I think it was a fun series. Looking back on it now, it has a very interesting idea, and I think that the mangaka kept it short and sweet. I think this is only 10 volumes or 9 volumes. So it's a really short series, and I think a really fun read. It doesn't overdo. It doesn't overstay its welcome, which I really enjoyed. Next up is Sweetness and Lightning. I haven't gotten around to read this yet, but this is actually the next series I want to read, following Blue Exorcist. So I'm looking forward to really sinking my teeth into this and giving it a shot. Next up is The Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. This is another one of those isekai series, similar to Sword Art Online, No Game No Life, ReZero. I can go on. This I got for a really good deal when I was back on campus last fall. Similar to Inuyashiki, I believe I got this for like $1. So it's a series that I've always heard about and wanted to pick up, but I just never got around to it. So I definitely want to sit down and read this and see if I want to continue picking it up. I'm just going to put this down here for now. Next up is To Your Eternity. This is a series that has been on my reading list for a while, and I will definitely do it sometime this month. It's done by the same mangaka that did Silent Voice, and just, I really enjoyed that series. I it's one of my favorite mangas that I've read in a while. So To Your Eternity is definitely up on the list for me. I look forward to reading what the series is about and kind of sinking my teeth into it and giving my own opinions. Next up is one of those stray volumes that I just have here, and that is Gangsta Volume 6. I watched the anime and really enjoyed it, but I think that the manga has, it takes a different route in terms of its ending. And this is a shorter series too. I believe it's only 9 volumes. And it's a series that I do plan on picking up eventually. I think it's going out of print, as it's not too much of a popular series. But regardless, I think it's an okay title. I would definitely recommend it for anyone trying to read something new, but it doesn't revolutionize anything. It's not something that I certainly remember as being a really memorable series, or something that you need to go out right away and pick it up. Next up is 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa. I actually was able to sit down and read the first 2 of these omnibuses that came out by Viz. Really loving where the story's going so far. I do enjoy the premise, and as always, Naoki Urasawa does a fantastic job in his storytelling and creating this world around the characters, where they kind of have to unpeel different layers of it and uncover the truth to this mystery. Highly recommend to anyone looking to read a sci-fi mystery thriller. I can't say good things. I can't say enough good things about this series. Finally on this shelf is Monster Volume 1. This is the first omnibus released by Viz, the Perfect Edition. I think that this series is easily my top 3 manga of all time. It's also done by Naoki Urasawa, and that's what led me to kind of look into his other works. It follows this doctor that he has to choose between 2 patients. He does the kind of moral high ground and chooses one patient over the other, but that patient turns out to be a serial killer, and now the doctor feels as if it's in his hands now to stop him. It's really rooted in reality. There's not, too far out scenarios or too far out situations going on there. I definitely do recommend it to anyone looking to read a crime thriller, involving serial killers, cops, just a mystery that unfolds between every single chapter you read. So I can't speak highly enough of Monster. Again, it's my top 3 manga of all time. I definitely recommend it to anyone looking to read a really strong series to start off with, or just at all. Just if you haven't read this, go read it. It's great. Going over to the final portion of my collection. This is actually my first shelf that I started to double layer. So there's actually some manga behind it, which I will go through in a moment. So let's move some of this aside here. Quickly trying to show you the back here. Hope everyone is doing fantastic today. Everyone's staying safe, reading some manga, watching some anime, or reading some comics, whatever you prefer. Anything is good. Going back to the collection, so we have the rest of the Monster Perfect Editions, volumes 2 through 9. The whole series is collected in 18 of the single issues, which was my original goal to get when I first started collecting, but I just found that these were a lot cheaper in the long run and a lot less expensive than going out and collecting these singles. But so these Perfect Editions done by Viz, they are great quality. I do believe they did a fantastic job with them, and I cannot recommend picking them up enough. Next up is Tokyo Ghoul and Tokyo Ghoul Re. This is the first part of Tokyo Ghoul here, the first 14 volumes, and following that is Tokyo Ghoul Re. Tokyo Ghoul is another one of those gateway anime that I highly recommend to anyone looking to get into it. The manga is way better in my opinion. I think after they tried with anime, they really did. Route A, I think, does not do the series justice. And then with Re, the anime adaptation to that really fell flat for me. It didn't live up to quite my expectations for it. But still, I highly recommend the manga. I think it's great for anyone looking to kind of get a darker, more fantasy-oriented series whilst trying to mix it with reality. It's not so much fantasy, but there is a lot of ghouls and all sorts of monsters and stuff like that. So again, I highly recommend to anyone looking to get into the medium. It's another one of those gateway anime, and I believe the manga as well, in my opinion. So if you haven't done so already, go pick out the first series, so Tokyo Ghoul. If you enjoy that, go on along to Tokyo Ghoul Re, which I believe is done serializing in English as well. Well, not done serializing, but being released by Viz. So everything done by Shuei Yoshida in terms of Tokyo Ghoul is out. And yeah, like I said, I can't speak highly enough of the series. I would definitely recommend it. Putting back my shelf here, we can start going back this way. We have the remaining volumes of Tokyo Ghoul Re up through volumes 13. There are 16 in total. By the end of the year, I will have gotten volumes 14, 15, and 16. Most likely around Christmas, as I already read ahead, and it's not really a series I want to prioritize picking up, as while I do love the series, I already read it, and I kind of want to, if I have to pick a volume of manga over another, I would rather start to get newer series and kind of involve myself with, newer characters, newer worlds, etc. Next is Way of the Household Husband. This is another one of those series that I laugh every time I read it. I actually picked it up during the Right Stuff summer sale this summer. And again, it's truly hilarious. It's similar to the, the comedic style of Prison School or Grand Blue Dreaming, but not as ecchi. So if you like that type of humor, I definitely recommend going to go pick this up. And I do think it's going to get an anime adaptation sooner rather than later. So I highly recommend. There's only 3 volumes out currently, released by Viz. So if you're looking for more of a funny, lighthearted read, definitely go for it. As you know, the main character is a former yakuza who is just restricted to staying to his house, so he's just following these household chores of cooking, cleaning, etc., and going about his day. Next up is a manga volume that I want to collect the rest of, but I just have never gotten around to it, and it's just one of those a series that I want to have myself just to have. But that is the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back adaptation, in a manga format. This is the 4th volume. I think there are 7 of these in terms of the releases done by Dark Horse, following the Empire Strikes Back. So I definitely want to collect this at some point, but for now it's not really a priority for me. But yeah, it's just fun to have in my collection. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so it's always fun to kind of see the two things that I like come together. So yeah, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, the manga adaptation, volume 4. The next chunk of the shelf we have here is, so we have All You Need Is Kill. This is also done by the same mangaka, the same illustrator that did Death Note. It's a all-in-one, 2-in-1. I highly recommend it to anyone. This is a great gateway manga, as it's a shorter series. It's all contained to this one volume in terms of the Viz release, here in the United States. And yeah, it's they made a live action movie adaptation of this, The Edge of Tomorrow, with Tom Cruise. And it's not too bad, in my opinion. I don't think it was bad at all. They changed a lot of things, but they still kept the original spirit of All You Need Is Kill. The series is definitely a lot more graphic than the movie. But like I said, I definitely recommend it to anyone looking to get into it and trying to collect manga. This is one of those gateway series for you, as everything is collected in this nice, I think it's a 3-in-1 or 2-in-1 by Viz. It's really high quality. And then going into the story and the character itself, the art is fantastic. It's done by Takeshi Obata, the illustrator for Death Note, and the story itself is really interesting and really engaging. I sat down and read this all in one sitting, so that just tells you, how the series is. It's very enjoyable. It's a very fun read, and I highly recommend it. Next up is Full Metal Alchemist, the Full Metal editions, volumes 1 and 2. These are, I think, one of the nicer releases done by Viz. I really do need to get to collecting volume 1. There are currently 9 out in English, I believe. So I would definitely be picking those up in a more rapid rate than I have with any of the series, as Full Metal Alchemist is one of those staple series that I actually have never read, and I really want to. I was actually going to get the box set released by Viz a while ago, but around the same time I heard that they were coming out with these Full Metal editions, so I decided to wait. These aren't 2-in-1s, but they are like 1.5-in-1s, and the paper quality is like print paper. It's really nice quality. It's glossy. I think that Viz did a fantastic job with these, especially considering that they are hardcover releases as well. You can't beat that. So yeah, that is Full Metal Alchemist volumes 1 and 2. My books decided to fall over. Next up is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure volume 1, part 1. JoJo's is, a big meme in the community, but I've also heard it's a fantastic series. I want to properly get into it, so I actually want to pick up the entire first part before I start getting into it. It's one of the shorter parts, as I think it's only collected in 4 or 5 of these, not oversized, but the hardcovers. So I definitely want to do that and kind of get my first impressions on it and see if it's a series I want to continue to collect. Next up is Death Note L Change the World. This is the light novel from the Death Note universe. I picked it up for a really good deal. I think it was like $5. I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but it's one of those that I want to save for a day to see if, if I don't want to read manga, but I want to read something manga related. This is definitely one of those series I will look forward to reading. Next up, we have Vagabond, the Viz Big Editions, volumes 1 to 3, and volume 7. The reason being, I think I got volume 7 on Amazon for about $4 with Amazon Prime shipping, so I couldn't pass that up. But I actually ended up picking Vagabond last summer during Right Stuff sale. They were bundling these. There are currently, I think, 12 of these Viz Bigs out, plus volume 37, as Takahito Inoue is currently on hiatus with the series. So I do look forward to picking up the rest, but from what I've read so far, I think it's very enjoyable. I stopped around volume 2 of these Viz Bigs because I want to be able to just sit down and binge it. But oh my gosh, the art here is on par with Berserk. I think that this is a fantastic series for anyone looking to get into like samurai and that sort of genre. This is a series, like I said, I can't recommend this enough. The art's amazing, the story's amazing, the action sequences are really gripping, they keep you on the edge of your seat, and it's really grounded, which I really like as well. It's not like absurd where the samurais have like superpowers or they have like special abilities, whatnot. It's very grounded in reality, which I really enjoyed. Next up, I have some of the Japanese releases from the series here. I pick some of these up every time I go to this shop near me that tends to have a lot of used manga for really cheap. So we have One Punch Man Volume 7, the first volume of Attack on Titan, the first volume of My Hero Academia, and then we have some Naruto volumes that have some... I wanted to pick them up because they have some significance in the story. So we have... actually, I'm not going to spoil it, but they have... these are all kind of standout volumes for me in terms of the second part of Naruto, so from Shippuden. And then what I think is really cool is the Tale of the Gutsy Shinobi. This is an actual Japanese novel written from the perspective of Jiraiya and his novel that he discussed in the manga. So I think that's really cool. I definitely am in the process of learning, so one of my ultimate goals is to actually be able to sit down and read this one day. In my opinion, I wish that the Viz releases were these size, and obviously the price, that'd be nice. In Japan, the going rate for a brand new volume of manga is $4, and then you can typically buy them used for $1. And I wish they were, Viz followed suit. Obviously, not in terms of the price, but I wish the size was about the same, because I just do like having to be able to have these volumes of manga really portable. And I think I'd be willing to take my manga on the go if that was the case. But I'm not going to complain. Some of the releases done by Viz, such as the Full Metal editions or the Perfect editions or the 20th Century Boys deluxe editions as well, I can't complain about those. And finally, for the last chunk, we actually have some manga in other languages here as well. So first being, we have some, this one's in Japanese still. And then we actually have some manga in French. I own this volume in Japanese, English, and French, which I'm really pumped about. We got Berserk and Tokyo Ghoul. I just wanted to pick up some standout volumes. It's not really something that I want to collect the whole series of, but if it's a volume where something big happens or something that I really enjoyed about the story, I will pick it up. And finally, we have some Brazilian releases of Naruto. These singles I really like from Brazil, where they actually, it's larger than a standard volume. It's similar to the size of a Viz Sig, but if not a little bit smaller. But they actually include these like mini posters inside of it. Every single volume has a different one, which I really enjoyed. But the paper quality is a little weak in this department, where it's kind of like, it's really thin paper. But regardless, I really still do like these. I just wish the paper quality was on Viz's level, but I like the way that that Brazil printed these. Let's tuck that back in here. And that is my manga collection for the midway point of 2020. Again, I wanted to thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching the video. If you have any video suggestions or ideas, feel free to leave them in the comment down below. I'm more than happy to, create content for you guys if it's something you want to see. Also, let me know down below what your collection consists of. What's your favorite series? More, specific. I always read the comments and respond to them, so I'm really looking forward to see what you guys can say. If you feel so inclined to do so, please follow me on Twitter. I recently created a Twitter account in order to be in more constant communication with you guys in terms of, me releasing, putting out tweets when videos are released, polls, stuff you like to see, some Q&A questions, and even some giveaways that I have coming up, which I'm really excited about. Also, I have my Twitch channel, which I do plan on streaming this upcoming week for you guys. So I'm really excited to start that as well. We got some big things coming to the channel, which I'm really excited to show off in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for the support. If you feel so inclined to do so, please like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you guys are notified every time I upload. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day and stay safe. Go read some manga, go have some fun.